On Sunday, Secret Service agents quickly whisked Donald Trump off his golf course in West Palm Beach when one agent had spotted a loaded SKS-style rifle peeping through the shrubbery on the next hole just 500 yards away. Only 9 weeks after the former president narrowly escaped an assassination attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania, Trump's life was under risk for a second time. While the 45th president was safe and unharmed, the question begs, how did 58-year-old Ryan Ruth manage to take his gun, backpacks and drone to Donald Trump's own golf course? Joining me now to walk us through this is security expert Will Geddes. Will, thanks so much for your time today. What was your response to this second assassination attempt against Donald Trump?
Well, again, I saw this as somewhat incredulous, Maddie. It's something which, again, surprises me for two particular reasons. The first of which is that he is undertaking recreational activity in somewhere as wide open as a golf course. And secondly, that the fact that there wasn't sufficient security in place to make sure that and the perimeters, despite the fact that the Secret Service officers were one hole ahead of the hole that he was playing, hadn't ensured that they could lock it down sufficiently that someone from a distance could potentially take a shot at him.
Mm. Look, Trump did praise the agency for the way they handled it at the time. And then one of Trump's friends who was golfing with him did the same when he was speaking to Fox News' Sean Hannity. They complimented the way the Secret Service assessed the risk so quickly in the moment. But then it's been alleged, news has come out that the suspect, he may have been hiding there for 12 hours with a loaded weapon. Shouldn't the agency be on higher alert after what happened on July 13th?
Well, absolutely. And I mean, and one of the things which surprises me and astounds me is the fact that if it is to be believed that Ryan Ruth was in fact located a good 12 hours prior to the attempt that he was going to make on Donald Trump, there are two issues. The first of which is, from what I understand, this was not on his standard schedule. It hadn't even been scheduled. This was a spur of the moment request by Donald Trump to go and play a round of golf. And the second thing is that with modern technology, even if you don't have the manpower, Ryan Ruth would have been in the bushes, in the shrubs, undercover, if you like, during the hours of darkness. And one of the things that we even use within the private sector is thermal cameras to detect any kind of warmth or activity or individual that could be potentially in the area that might be potentially exposing your principal, your protectee.
Mm. Well, getting into that, Will, from your security expertise and you're looking at the golf course, it's obviously a wide area, as you mentioned, and it's his Donald Trump's golf course. He's obviously going to be golfing on there quite a lot, whether or not it was in his schedule or not. But from your experience and you surveying that area, what should the Secret Service have done to protect Trump in the lead up to his tee off?
Well, I think certainly you would want to ensure that the entire route of what he would be playing has been secured. You have individuals that are not just one hole ahead, you have individuals further away and further down the course to detect anybody that would be within a viable shooting distance to your protectee. And the most important thing is to make a call on it very, very quickly and take charge as the person responsible for this individual's safety and security to call it and say to the principal, whether they be a former president or otherwise, and I've done this with former heads of state, where you will say, I simply cannot approve this activity, sir. I cannot assure your safety if you want to carry out a game of golf. And it's not like, Maddie, we weren't anticipating another attempt on Donald Trump's life prior to the elections in November.
Mm. And there's also been those threats that Secret Service, the FBI, have warned Donald Trump that he is under threat from members of Iran who have threatened to, with plots to kill Trump. They were threatening him at the July 13 assassination attempt, and he'd been told that they were still rife. And so I think the question begs, Will, with an assassination attempt already 9 weeks ago, another one on Sunday and those plots to kill him regardless, does Donald Trump need to be given more security guard numbers?
Yes, I think in simplicity, Maddie, yes, he does. But I think also he has to be very, very well protected up until November and the elections, because now is that critical period within which he is going to be the most vulnerable to an attack, whether it be state sponsored by a country like Iran, or whether it be a private individual who's fixated, who has their own personal agenda, like Ryan Ruth is believed to have had, that wants to undertake and implement their own potential attack. So, security, the numbers, yes, they're always good, but how they're managed is even more important.
Mm. Well, what I worry about is the copycat effect. From your expertise working in this area, how how worrisome is it when you have a political figure who's had two assassination attempts against him and he's obviously a polarizing figure? How do they assess the copycat effect? Does it increase the chances that other people are going to get the idea that they want to plot to kill him?
It's a very viable concern that has to be in place, Maddie. When you bear in mind that when there have now been two potential attempts, both failed, there are going to be those out there that feel that they can better the predecessors. There are those out there that feel that they can still wage a war against Donald Trump, that they can gain or garnish publicity. There can be numerous different motivations behind someone wanting to assassinate someone. It can be for political reasons, it could be for terrorism, or it could be for own fixated ideas. So the spectrum of individuals that could believe that they have an agenda to attack or assassinate or to harm President Trump in some shape or form is immense.
Mm,
And again, as I've mentioned, the closer we get to the elections in November, the greater that risk starts increasing. So, there are so many more well-equipped, well-resourced, better trained individuals out there with malicious intent who could either, because of their own personal beliefs, or be motivated financially to undertake an attack against
mm.
President Trump. So his security is absolutely paramount at the moment, whether you like him or not.
That is an excellent point, Will, because the thing is, and I don't know how many people would know the details of what happened on July 13th. This was a 20-year-old boy that managed to sneak into a rally in Pennsylvania on the roof, despite the fact that there were way more security and Secret Service agents there. And he managed to even shoot three times and kill a spectator at the rally. The second assassination attempt is a 58-year-old random man who managed to sneak into the shrubbery of a golf course where the former president is golfing. It just goes to show that these are amateurs that have been able to sneak through the cracks and have a loaded weapon against the 45th president. So it does kind of feed into that worry that, yes, as the campaign goes on, we're not far, like 50 days or something from the actual election, that there are more sophisticated, more experienced people that could get in the line of Donald Trump. And I guess my next question, Will, is, what does the Secret Service do when you have these big events as opposed to Trump's private time? How do they differentiate what kind of security they give him?
Well, I'll almost turn this in another way, Maddie, in terms of some of the considerations that need to be thought about.
Yeah.
And it's about more that every time that the Secret Service deal with a situation and then it's forensically analyzed in social media and on the media, the Secret Service have to consider that any determined, well-resourced, financed attackers or those with malintent will look at this forensically. They'll see how the Secret Service reacted, where these attempts were made, what were the response mechanisms, and they'll look at this and they'll work that into whatever plan they may be intending. So we as protectors, the Secret Service, and even those of us in the private space, we have to constantly adjust and adapt our plans and our responses accordingly to try and stay one step ahead of the enemy and ensuring that we are protecting our principles. For the Secret Service right now, they are under the most intrinsic spotlight,
Mm.
not only in terms of how they deal with situations, but how they're managing the protection of their principles. So right now, they're going to have to readjust and readapt their plan accordingly to ensure that they can preempt and predict how the next arc of attack may come and where it may come from.
Mm. Well, I do wonder, Will, how do you think the Secret Service can come back from this PR nightmare? They were under intense scrutiny after the July 13 shooting, leading to the chief, Kimberly Cheadle, having to resign and that insane hearing with the House Oversight Committee. And now you've had another assassination attempt. I just wonder, how do they come back from this kind of PR disaster?
Well, it's a difficult one, Maddie, and it is going to be over time. I mean, as the old saying goes, you're only as good as your last success,
Mm.
but equally, you will be judged on your last failure. So, for the Secret Service right now, they have to so be on it. They have to be on their game. But one of the biggest concerns is the fact that there has been no admission of ownership of responsibility in the failings on that previous assassination attempt. So, as we would with anybody, unless someone takes ownership of their mistakes, how can we feel reassured that they have learned from those mistakes and they will ensure those mistakes aren't repeated? So, right now, the Secret Service have got to get it so right, but they're doing it somewhat in the dark. And that is for good reasons, but it's also for bad reasons from a PR perspective.
Mm. Well, one of the kind of criticisms that came to light yesterday was the press conference with the Palm Beach County Chief Rick Bradshaw. He was praised by the Trump family, but he made comments about how there's a difference between the sitting president and the former president, and the protection that is given to them, which kind of sparked a lot of outrage because a lot of people beg to differ. They think that the Republican candidate for the presidency should be given the same kind of level of protection as Joe Biden or as Kamala Harris. What do you make of that?
Absolutely, and I couldn't agree more. Protection has to be commensurate to the threat. And the threat right now to Donald Trump is equal to the current president elect, Kamala Harris. So, he has to have sufficient security put in place. He can't be given second level or third levels of protection. The protection has to be commensurate. But the threat probably against Donald Trump right now is probably even greater than it is against Kamala Harris or against President Biden. So, we're in a situation here where that protection has to be justified. I wouldn't have a problem whatsoever in presenting a risk assessment to the necessary authorities to demonstrate and clearly evidence. And I don't think it would take a great deal of sophistication, even now in the wake of two attempts against Donald Trump, to say there is a very serious, very viable threat against President Trump right now. He needs to have the highest levels of protection afforded to him.
Mm. Will Geddes, thank you so much for your time today.
My pleasure, Maddie, as always.